We're back out at the big lake once again, and today it's all about this little guy. And what looks like an ordinary weightless Texas rig is actually so much more. Stick around, we're going to talk all about it. There we go, I got him. Holy crap, that's a monster. Oh wow. He almost jerked the rod out of my hands. Ooh, that's a good fish. Wow, oh my goodness. And here's this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing, and as spring rolls along, our lakes are getting busier and busier. All across the country, anglers are coming out, not just on the weekend, but during the week too. And that increased pressure can make things very, very tough when it comes to bass fishing. The lures that you want to throw, the presentations that you want to use, a lot of times can become ineffective because, well, a lot of guys are using them. There's too much noise on the water, there's too much activity on the water, and those bass, they can shut down. So what do? Well, a lot of times we go to a finesse type of presentation, something like a wacky rig. And a wacky rig is a great presentation to use. They work in a bunch of different situations, and they can be very good fish catching tools. But a lot of times there are just some places you don't want to work a wacky rig. They can get hung up in the bushes easily. They can get hung up in grass easily. So if you've got a lot of thick cover, a lot of thick slop that you're wanting to fish because you know that's where the bass are, sometimes a wacky rig can be more of a problem than it is a fix. And well, I like to fish a wacky rig, and it's one of the best presentations we have for when those bass get finicky. But like I said, sometimes it's just not viable. So I wanted to come up with an option of a weedless wacky rig, and that's where the Waco rig was born. You guys know I call it that because it looks like a Texas rig, hence the city of Waco, but it acts like a wacky rig, which is why we call it a Waco rig. Now, the difference between a weightless Texas rig and a Waco rig is simply, well, I have a small tungsten nail weight, in this case a 5/64, or I also do a 1/16, sometimes a 1/32, depending on how fast I want that thing to fall. And I'm taking a regular 1/0 EWG light wire hook. I want them small. And I can take something like a Senko, but I will do other types of worms as well, and we're going to get into that. Now, how am I rigging it up? Well, first of all, we're just going to do it like we would a normal Texas rig, right? You poke it through, pop it out, twist it around, and get it on there nice and straight. Now, whenever you're doing this, the important thing is have enough of the worm to cover your line tie. You want it to go all the way up. That's important because of how this bait acts in the water. Then we're going to take our tungsten nail weight. Now, you can use lead, but if you do, break them in half, make them smaller, because that's where tungsten really shines in this, is because it's so much smaller, it's easier to work with, and you're not deforming that worm nearly as much. So you're going to take the worm like this, and then right here, you're going to fold it down like that. Fold it in half, and you're going to take that pointy end, and you're going to shove it up in that worm. Now, you kind of want to push the worm on it as much as you want to shove the nail weight in. And when you're done, you're going to have something like that. You want to make it as straight as you possibly can. The straighter you get this, the better it will work in the water. And again, that's important because you're not going to work this just the same way you would work a wacky rig. I've been working with these for over a year now, and I've developed different ways that I like to work these, and they're actually really good. Some of them are a lot like a weightless fluke in a lot of instances, where you twitch them back and forth and you get a lot of jerk, you get a lot of twitch, the bait darts back and forth in the water. It's very, very enticing. All right, we have got a Waco rig tied on with a 5/64 tungsten nail weight in there. Like I said, the lead is okay, but you might want to break those in half so they're not nearly as bulky or as big. Otherwise, they'll distort the worm's body. It's kind of hard to work them that way. This old Zoom birthday cake colored worm, and we're going to throw it out here. Let's see. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good in the water. The thing about a Waco rig is how it works in the water. It sinks down like a Wacky rig. It's got that flutter. And that makes it appealing. But then when I pop the line just a little bit, it darts and dashes almost, you know, like, it reminds me a lot of what they used to call the banjo minnows. I got him. Oh, that's a big one. Oh, yeah. Come here, buddy. Come here. Come here. Oh, yeah. That is a nice fish on the old Waco rig. Waco rig got him on the spinning rod. He ate it pretty good, too. There we go. Gorgeous 2 pound, a little north of 2, not 2 1/4, but a little north of 2. Beautiful fish. Thank you so much for playing, buddy. Thank you. All right, let's go get the next one. And then it goes right back to that Wacky rig type of fall because it's weighted here in the center. That's how it falls. It falls like a Wacky rig, and that was the original appeal of why I was doing this bait. It was weedless because it's on EWG hook, rigged like a Texas rig, but that middle weight makes it fall like a Wacky rig. So that's really important. I can twitch it in the water, get it to dart around, and then it falls like a Wacky rig. So let's go ahead and let's examine some of the different ways I'm working this, how I'm getting it to work. Let's take a look at this underwater footage, and you can see the worm twitches and darts. And as I've said before, it reminds me quite a bit of a banjo minnow. And then when I stop twitching it, it falls like a Wacky rig. And that is very appealing. It is very enticing to those bass. And I get monster strikes. I've come to the point where I don't fish a Wacky rig nearly as much as I do the Waco rig anymore. Now, I said I was just doing different types of worms, and you can use different types of worms. This is a Zoom trick worm. It's obviously different than a Senko. It's longer. It's got that thin bulbous tail. It's almost like a finesse style worm. It doesn't weigh as much as a Senko. But the thing about these that I really like is when I rig this and you do it the same exact way. You rig it on a 1/0 EWG and you stick the tungsten nail weight in it. But in this, you'll actually get a little more darting action, a little more twisting and turning because of that longer tail. Now, you can see here under the water, you can see that we can actually get a little bit more twitching with it. Now, what that allows us to do is that actually allows us to work it almost like a jerkbait, almost like a hard jerkbait where you can twitch, twitch, pause, twitch, twitch, pause. And I've actually been going with that approach, and I've been getting a lot of great strikes. I've caught very nice fish, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, using that technique. And even still, I can go with something that's even bigger. Now, this is one of my homemade open pore paddle tail worms. And this clocks in at about 9 inches long, about 8 or 9 inches long. And this gives me even more swirl and twirl whenever I'm popping it in the water. It almost resembles a long leech. So I don't work it as fast as I'm working this, but you can see in the water that it has a very enticing action. That long curly tail, that paddle gives it some drag, so I'm able to work it and get it to swirl around, and then it goes right back to that Wacky rig style fall. So I'm able to use different types of worms differently, and I'm continually using different types of worms to try and figure out just exactly what else I can do, because right now I'm finding out that the Waco rig is not just a Wacky rig clone. It can do so many more things, and the more things I can figure out what to do with it, well, that just opens up more possibilities when out on the water. So give the Waco rig a try. It's not that hard. The hardest part is finding tungsten nail weights. In my area, I actually have to special order them because they're so hard to find. I can find lead ones here and there, but tungsten nail weights really are the thing that makes this work. And take it out on the water. It skips remarkably well. You've seen me use this bait for the past year, and it skips right up under flooded brush, right up under docks. It's just as easy to skip as a Wacky rig is. And depending on where you want to fish it in the water column, you can let it sink all the way down and slowly drag it just like you would a Texas rig. Or you can give it a couple of pops and let it sink down just like you would a Wacky rig. Or, like I said, you can work it almost like a weightless fluke, where you can give it some twitches and let it fall. And then give it some more twitches and then let it fall. Find out what works best for you. I'm sure you're going to love the results. So there you have it, the Waco rig. Is it better than the Wacky rig? Well, actually, I think it might be. It's certainly more versatile. I get the same results, and I can use it in so many different places that I can't use a Wacky rig. Try it out and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.